Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Arbitrary 20. In this video, we're going to be going over 3 beginner-friendly builds that'll take you from levels 1 to 5.
So for our first build, we're going to go with an Arcane Trickster Rogue. For our race, we're going to choose Halfling so we can boost our dexterity by 2. We also get the Lucky and the Brave traits. The Lucky trait comes up if you roll a 1, and you can re-roll it, but you must use the new roll. The Brave trait gives you advantage on saving throws against being frightened. For ability scores, I'd recommend prioritizing Dexterity first, Intelligence second, and Constitution third. At first level, we get to pick our starting equipment. For this, we're going to pick up a short bow and a short sword or a dagger. Also at first level, we gain access to the Sneak Attack feature, which allows us to deal more damage to one creature once per turn if we have advantage on the attack roll. This damage starts at 1d6 and it scales as we go up in levels. And finally, we get Expertise, which allows us to double our proficiency bonus to 2 skill proficiencies or a skill proficiency and Thieves Tools. My personal recommendations for skills would be Perception and Stealth. At second level, we gain access to the Cunning Action feature. This is a nice utility option for our bonus action. At level 3, our sneak attack damage goes up to 2d6 extra damage, and we also get to pick our Roguish archetype, also known as our subclass. For this, we're going to choose Arcane Trickster, as it's a good way to get our feet wet into spellcasting and still deal damage reliably. For spells, we're going to start with our cantrips, choosing Mage Hand, Message, and Booming Blade. The uses that Mage Hand and Message have are as big as your brain is, and Booming Blade is a really good cantrip for when you're stuck in melee. The best way to use Booming Blade is to cast the cantrip as an action and then use our Cunning Action feature to disengage as a bonus action. We can move without getting hit by opportunity attacks, and if the enemy that we attacked with Booming Blade follows us, they'll take extra damage. For first level spells, we're going to choose Disguise Self, Hideous Laughter, and Find Familiar. Disguise Self has a multitude of possibilities on how you can use it. Hideous Laughter is a good control option that can potentially incapacitate enemies until they take damage, and Find Familiar, choosing the Owl, gives you an extra option for gaining advantage so you can sneak attack. And finally, for level 3, we get Mage Hand Legerdmain. This is effectively the Giga Chad version of the Mage Hand cantrip, allowing us to control the spectral hand created by this cantrip as a bonus action, giving you more options without having to give up your action. At level 4, we get to choose between an ability score increase or a feat. For this, we're going to choose the Crossbow Expert feat. In order for this to work, we'll have to pick up a hand crossbow, but if we can't get a hold of a hand crossbow, the Sharpshooter feat is a great feat to take instead. The Crossbow Expert feat allows us to be more versatile when stuck in melee, and we can ignore the loading property of crossbows. We can also make a bonus action attack with the hand crossbow that we're holding after we take the attack action by attacking with a one-handed weapon. Overall, this is a strong feat that allows us to deal more damage. If your table doesn't use feats, you can always take an ability score increase. I recommend boosting dexterity. And finally, for 4th level, we get to pick up another spell. For this, we're going to choose Silent Image. This is a great spell with a lot of versatility if you can get creative with your illusions. At level 5, our sneak attack damage bumps up to 3d6 extra damage, and we also gain access to the Uncanny Dodge feature, which allows us to use our reaction to halve the damage from one incoming attack.
And our next build is going to be a Divine Soul Sorcerer. So to start out at level 1 with our race, we'll be going with the Half Elf, choosing the Drow option. Half Elf is nice because it boosts all of our important ability scores, and then the Drow option is nice because it gives us a couple of extra spells, and they're still based on our Charisma. And speaking of important ability scores, the ones you should be prioritizing are Charisma, Constitution, and Dexterity, in that order. For starting equipment, you can pretty much pick whatever you want, but you do need to be sure to pick up your Component Pouch or Arcane Focus. And then moving on to spells, we'll get 4 cantrips and 2 first level spells here at level 1. For cantrips, I would pick up Firebolt, Toll the Dead, Mind Sliver, and Guidance. The first 3 being good damage options that'll be good in a variety of different scenarios. Toll the Dead, obviously dealing the most damage, assuming you're not dealing with resistance or immunity to necrotic damage. Firebolt's good because it does a good amount of damage, and it's also nice to have because it's able to damage objects. And then finally, Mind Sliver is great because it's able to subtract from an enemy's saving throw. And then Guidance is a great utility cantrip, as it's just going to boost most of your ability checks by a d4. And then moving on to what we get from our subclass, the Divine Soul. First off, we get a spell based on the alignment that our power originated from, and for that one I would go with Bless. Bless is just a great all-around concentration spell that'll be good even at higher levels. And then lastly here we'll get Favored by the Gods. This lets us add 2d4 to an attack roll or saving throw once per short rest. I would pretty much always save this for an important saving throw and probably not use it for an attack roll. And moving on to level 2, the first thing we'll pick up here is Font of Magic. This will give us 2 sorcery points and the ability to convert spell slots to sorcery points and vice versa. As of right now, we don't really have any uses for our sorcery points, so the 2 sorcery points we have are just an extra first level spell slot, but we'll get more uses for our sorcery points next level. And we also get one more first level spell here at level 2, and I would go with Healing Word. I like Healing Word over Cure Wounds as it takes a bonus action instead of an action, and the slight difference in healing shouldn't matter too much, as you should only be using either of those spells to heal up unconscious allies. And on to level 3, we'll get that other use for our sorcery points, that being Meta Magic, and the 2 options I would choose are Twin Spell and Subtle Spell. Twin Spell is nice because it can take any spell we have that targets one creature and make it target 2. This will essentially let us cast some of our spells twice within that same action or bonus action that it would usually cost. And then Subtle Spell is nice when we don't want somebody to see or hear us casting a spell, and it'll be nice at higher levels as well, as it lets us avoid being counterspelled since enemy casters won't be aware that we're casting a spell. Also at level 3 we'll pick up second level spells, so I would swap out Sleep for Web and Rhymes Binding Ice. Web probably being the best second level control option in the game. You set down a 20-foot square of webs, and your enemies will have to make a saving throw or be restrained at the start of their turn. And then if they are restrained, it takes them an action to even try to get out of it. And then Rhymes Binding Ice is essentially a mini cone of cold that will also freeze your enemies in place if they fail the saving throw. And moving on to level 4, we'll get our ability score increase or feat. If you are using feats, I would go ahead and take the Warcaster feat, the main reason being so that we can boost our concentration checks. If you're not using feats, then I would just go ahead and boost your charisma by 2. And we get one more spell here at level 4, and I would pick up the Shield spell. This is one of, if not the best, defensive spell in the game. The combination of this and Mage Armor will make our AC pretty respectable. And finally, at level 5, we'll pick up 3rd level spells, and I would swap out Rhymes Binding Ice for Fireball and Hypnotic Pattern. Fireball being everyone's favorite AoE damage option, and then Hypnotic Pattern is a really nice AoE control spell that can incapacitate a group of enemies until they take damage if they fail a Wisdom saving throw.
And for our next build, we're going to choose the Path of the Totem Warrior Barbarian. For our race, we're going to pick Half Orc, which allows us to boost our Strength by 2 and our Constitution by 1. We also get Dark Vision, and we get the Relentless Endurance and Savage Attacks traits. Relentless Endurance comes up when an attack drops you to 0 hit points and doesn't kill you outright. You can instead drop to 1 hit point. This feature can only be used once per long rest, but it's a good option when you need to use it. The Savage Attacks trait comes up when you score a critical hit on a melee attack. You can reroll 1 damage die and add it to the total damage for that hit. For ability scores, I recommend prioritizing Strength first, Constitution second, and Dexterity third. At level 1, we get to pick up our starting equipment, and for this we're going to choose a Greatsword or a Maul because we're building a melee character. Also at level 1, we get access to the Rage feature. This allows you to be better at things involving strength, allows you to be more durable, and deal more damage. This damage scales as you go up in levels in this class. And finally, for level 1, we have the Unarmored Defense feature. This is a special feature for barbarians that explains how to calculate our armor class if we aren't wearing armor. This feature still works if you're using a shield. At level 2, we gain access to the Danger Sense feature, which allows us to gain advantage on dexterity saving throws that we can see, provided that we aren't incapacitated, blinded, or deafened. We also get access to the Reckless Attacks feature. How this works is on your first attack of the turn, you can choose to gain advantage on all of your attacks for that turn. However, there's a trade-off here, as attack rolls against you also have advantage until your next turn, which means if you get a chance to hit more often, so will your enemies. At level 3, we get to pick our Primal Path, also known as our subclass. And for this, we're going to choose the Path of the Totem Warrior, choosing the Bear Totem Spirit. This makes us resistant to all damage except for psychic damage while we're raging. At level 4, we get to choose between a feat or an ability score improvement. We're going to choose the Great Weapon Master feat, which is an awesome power feat that's essential for a build like this. This allows you to have some extra interactions with critical hits. The biggest thing about this feat is before you attack, you can choose to take a -5 penalty to your attack roll, and if you still hit, you can add +10 to that attack's damage. Once again, if your table doesn't allow feats, you can choose to take an ability score increase, and for this, I recommend boosting Strength. At level 5, we gain access to the Extra Attack feature, which allows us to attack twice in 1 attack action. And finally, we gain the Fast Movement feature, which increases our speed by 10 feet, provided we aren't wearing heavy armor.
And then as an honorable mention, if you do really want to play a fighter, we would recommend the Battlemaster fighter. And with the Battlemaster, there's 2 good ways you can go, being melee or ranged. For ranged, you'll want to pick up a hand crossbow and the Crossbow Expert feat, and Dexterity will be your main ability score. And for melee, you'll want to pick up a glaive or a halberd, and the Polar Master feat and Strength will be your main ability score. And whether you're going melee or ranged, the maneuvers I would recommend are Menacing Attack, Trip Attack, and Precision Attack.
Alright, so here we are on a different day because we forgot to record an outro. If you'd like a written version of these builds, they'll be in an article on our website, linked in the description below. If you'd like to check out our full 1 to 20 D&D 5e build guides, you can click here. So that'll do it for this video. Thanks for watching and have an awesome day.